This brings us to Daniel's visions and prophecies. Now, there's a principle in Scripture that says, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall a matter be established. And we have our first witness in Daniel chapter 2 with regard to this timeline that Nebuchadnezzar saw in a dream, which was represented by the statue: head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of brass, legs of iron, feet of iron and clay, destroyed by a rock, not made with human hands, that grew into a mountain and covered the whole earth. And Nebuchadnezzar is told that this was a timeline that would go into the latter days. And so now we're about to get another perspective of that same timeline, but this time that witnesses Daniel himself. And in the first of these visions is in chapter 7, and I've subtitled this The Little Horn, because you're going to see this entity that arises in this context, and that's where Daniel really places a lot of his emphasis. So just going back to our timeline here, we again just saw that Babylon would be the first kingdom, and then you've had these successive kingdoms, all one timeline, and it would be destroyed by the Most High's kingdom at the end. So here we are, we're going to pick up in Daniel chapter 7, reading in verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream. Now Belshazzar again is the, I think, grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, and he was the one that saw the handwriting on the wall that was recorded in Daniel chapter 5. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus to it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given unto it. Verse 7, After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool, and his throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, and the judgment was set, and the books were open. Now, I want to emphasize here, in verse 17, we're given explanation with regard to these beasts. It says, These great beasts which are 4 kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. And I'm emphasizing this because there are those who want to have these beasts and the metals of Nebuchadnezzar's dream represent one kingdom with different kings in it. whereas the Bible is saying that these four beasts represent kingdoms. They're individual kingdoms. Verse 23, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms. And it shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. So we're dealing with kingdoms, not individual kings. And I just wanted to emphasize that. Okay, kings equals kingdoms. And that's going to be even more important when we get to Revelation and get into the details of the book of Revelation. All right, continuing here in verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were on his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints should possess the kingdom. What are we seeing? We're seeing that these kingdoms would last until judgment time. All right, and that is adding color, adding detail to what we saw in Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Because remember, in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, we just saw that a rock that wasn't cut with hands or human hands came and hit this statue at his feet, destroyed the whole thing, and grew into a kingdom that covered the whole earth. That's all we were told. And that now we're given more clarity, we're given more detail to see that the Ancient of Days, or the Most High, when he sits in judgment, it's as a response to this little horn making war with the saints. Okay, so we're laying a foundation that just brick by brick by brick. And once we get to Revelation, you'll see how all of this comes together. It's really amazing and fascinating. Verse 23, and we read this already. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break in pieces. Verse 24, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. And another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. He, this little horn, he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and destroy it unto the end. So we're seeing sort of a repetition of events with regard to this little horn. We see that he would speak great things, and then he would make war with the saints. Then we see that the things that he would speak would be great words against the Most High, and we see that he would think to change times and laws, and the saints would be given into his hand for a specific time, times, and a dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his kingdom. So we're just seeing the same progression of events. We're just, more emphasis is being put on the activities of this little horn. So now let's add to our chart that we've been putting together, laying on what we just went over in Daniel 7 to what we already had in Daniel 2. So we see that the persecution of Yahweh's people would be by this little horn character, but judgment would be given in favor of Yahweh's people. And now looking at our chart, we can see in Daniel's first vision that it is on the same foundational plane as Nebuchadnezzar's vision, but more detail has been added. We see the first kingdom represented as a lion with eagle's wings, and then a bear with 3 ribs in his mouth, and then this leopard with 4 wings. Then they see this 4th kingdom. It has a nondescript type of beast, but 10 horns would come from this kingdom. And then following that, a little horn would come up from among those 10 kingdoms and subdue 3 of them. Right? And then judgment would be given by the Ancient of Days. So it's the same progression of events, just told from a different perspective, this time told by Daniel. Remember, these are now earthly kingdoms. And I just want to reference Genesis chapter 41, verse 32. And you can read that. It's with regard to Joseph when he was in captivity and was had to explain a dream, basically. But essentially it's given twice for emphasis. And as I said before, the principle of Scripture is that a matter shall only be established by at least 2 witnesses. It's better to have 3. It's like a stool with 3 pegs. It stands better on 3 than it does on 2. All right, so now I want to point out that in Daniel 7, although we got this same progression of events, more emphasis is put on the activities of this little horn character with regard to his war with the saints and his war essentially with the Most High God. And that's what Daniel really was sort of honing in on. And you'll see why as we get into this into these next couple sections of this study.